Hi, you're listening to Live Origami podcast with Alen Leit. This episode was recorded on the 27th of December 2020, and it's already 17th of April 2021. It took me a long time to process the last 7 episodes, and now in April, I want to release 7 episodes that were recorded in the time frame from the end of December till now. I hope you enjoyed this wonderful episode, and let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8th episode of our interview series of How Do You Make 2021 Count for the Business You Love. Today's guest is already 6 years in an important topic that everyone faces on a day-to-day basis in our business. It's content marketing. And our guest is especially focusing on B2B content marketing. And I believe that many of us who are in business are dealing with B2B clients and are interested on how to make our content more productive for our business. And today we have Camille Blyth. Did I say that correctly?
It's pronounced Bly.
Bly. Super.
Bly.
So, Camille, I welcome you to this episode. I'm glad to have you. It's nearly New Year. We are fitting it into your schedule. And I believe today's episode will be super packed with value and interesting ideas for people to make 2021 count. So, Camille, tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, and where are you from?
Okay, so I am based in Sydney, Australia. I live in the north part of Sydney on an island. So that's my fun fact. So it's a water access only, and I've been running my business for 6 years. I started it mostly because I needed to be able to do something that fitted in around life. So mostly my children, their school schedules, all those things. So I kind of invented a business that would fit in with everything that I could work from home with, and yeah, that's basically where I'm at. And I do specialize, as Alen said, in B2B businesses, and it's a little bit more niche than that in terms of I look at businesses with high value, infrequently purchased products or services. And we look at the content that will help them engage their audience over the long term in between those two buying points.
Super. You're the first person that said that they've launched a business that fits into life. That is super fascinating. Um, let's talk about this idea a little bit. So was this business a passion that was at the beginning, or it became a passion through time for you?
I think it's a bit of a hybrid. It was writing's always been my kind of jam, but after doing well, after convincing a few friends who had businesses that I was, that content marketing and writing blogs was a good thing, I realized firstly that I was going to get bored very quickly, and secondly, there's only so many words you can write, in a week. And I had an accidental meeting with these two really lovely business guys, and I won't go into the story, but I ended up showing up to this meeting, and they were both really lovely, and they spent 2 hours with me in this meeting and explained to me how I could turn what I was doing into a scalable business, which to this day I think back at the fortune of that kind of accidental meeting and how that really did change the trajectory of what I was doing and how I worked out how to turn this into quite a scalable business. So in reality now I don't do any writing at all, but I do, in that journey I found a whole bunch of other things that I really love doing as well. So yeah, it was kind of a hybrid between need and doing something that I enjoyed, and then finding something I kind of really can enjoy in a long-term sense and
Oh,
not burn out.
that's interesting. What would you say your passion in life is currently, and what keeps you up at night?
Um, Look, it's a mix of things, and like I have a very kind of diverse range of interests. So I have a garden which continuously needs weeding. So I'm always using excuses to go out and do some gardening. Um, at the moment, I'm into creating fabric dyes out of natural materials. So gum leaves and bark and flowers and things like that. So
Hmm.
it's not really. I think the passion is exploring new things.
All right. Does this passion fit and transmit through the business that you're doing also? Finding and doing new things?
In a really, really indirect way. So I find so one of the things I sort of realized is that in order to maintain a momentum in a business, you need to find the space to let your brain relax. So I know that there's a lot of people who, they jump in the car and they put on a podcast and they're reading a business book and they're doing this, or they're working, or they're doing a mastermind, all those things. And I find that what I need to do is go somewhere and do a physical activity that allows my brain to go onto autopilot and just not absorb more information and not absorb and not be thinking about tasks and processes and clients and all that kind of stuff. And I just find that I can walk in after 15 minutes in the garden and kind of have this bolt of inspiration on something that needs to be done next.
Very interesting. So basically, you're using this technique where you're relaxing and refocusing your brain on something that is not work related. And that helps you to process everything that's been going on in the business and come up with interesting new insights and get more done in the end.
Yeah, yeah. If I'm under extreme pressure to get something done, I will spend 15 minutes outside in the garden pulling weeds
Oh,
out. Or yeah,
okay.
literally that will be my first thing to do, rather than go into that kind of action mode. I tend to go and do the relaxing bit first. It's kind of like stretching before doing exercise. I'm not really an exercise person. I'm a yoga person,
Hmm?
but I do know that if you're going to go for a run or something, it's a good idea to stretch beforehand. And I feel like that's kind of what I do,
It's like a mental
creative.
stretch, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
well, yeah, kind of. Creativity stretch.
Oh, that's interesting. That I believe for many that can be put into practice. So when did I understand correctly? So when you have an important decision to make or something important to do, first you spend some time doing some physical activity that is not connected to work in any way, just to um, slow down the thought process, and it gets you into a state that enables you to be much more productive as a result in the thing that you need to get done.
Yeah, I think you've thought about it more than I have in the sense that, yeah, I haven't really thought about it too much, but often, between tasks, I'll go out and I'll sweep the leaves off the deck. I have the tidiest deck. Um, so yeah, so I think it's just that sort of manual activity where your your brain doesn't have to actually think about the thing that you're doing, and it can just
Hmm.
kind of drift off in its
Beautiful,
own
beautiful.
direction, and then it can come back and focus.
Uh huh. Wow, that's an interesting perspective, and I believe it's practical for many people out there. In the process of work, and as you said, you fit in your business into your lifestyle. Do you find yourself to be a morning person or a night person?
I am definitely a morning person.
How did you find out about it?
Um, yeah, I don't think I found out so much as it was kind of forced upon.
Hmm.
I think when you have children, I used to be a night owl. I used to go out, all that kind of stuff, which I'm glad I did, because when I had children, suddenly, you find that sleep has become very, very precious, and children tend to get up really, really early, and then the school thing starts, and so you've got to get up and stick to a schedule with school. And I just found that if I by the time the children come home from school, you do the whole dinner, bed, homework routine. So it's, 8 or 9 o'clock. And if I go back to work then, I'm kind of exhausted, but then I hit a roll, and then suddenly it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
and then the next day I can't really function at all. So I just realized that I had to go, whatever I can get done in the day that I have gets done. And if I need to get more done, I have to get up earlier to do that rather than trying to push through at night. So I never ever work after
Mm.
about 6 o'clock.
All right. In this process of having that routine where you do put your children to bed, and let's say it's 8 or 9, so by that time you already finished all the work. So before putting your children to sleep, you already finish everything, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I kind of work on a weekly basis. So I look at what needs to be done for the week. Um, so I kind of run two lists. I have a general list for the full week, and then I have a daily list just to get, keep everything in control. And then if I do that, if I sit down on Sunday night and plan the week out, then generally I smash that week. And then if the last thing I do in the day is do the next day's list, so I'm not really necessarily that hung up on getting everything done in a day.
Hmm.
I'll get things done, and then anything that doesn't get done gets carried over onto the next day and starts the next
Hmm.
day's list.
Okay.
So, yeah.
When do you start? Like, if you go to sleep early, let's say, when is the average time when you go to bed, in a sense?
Well, my children are teenagers now, so often I'm the first one to bed.
And
So
where's
yes,
that about?
9:30,
And
and then I'll
when?
read for an hour.
Okay, so one of the rituals that you do is before sleep you read.
Absolutely can't go to sleep if I don't read.
Okay,
Doesn't matter how
and
late it is, doesn't matter how tired I am.
what kind of literature?
Uh, you've name it, I've read it. I will read anything.
So it doesn't
Diversity.
matter, is it like a business or anything else? You just read something that is interesting for you.
Yep, novels, non-fiction, business books, whatever.
Okay. So the
Yep.
process, you basically go to bed early, somewhere around 9-ish, then you read for an hour and have a good night's sleep. And what is a good night's sleep? How much do you sleep on average?
Well, until 6 o'clock.
Okay, so you always have a fixed, let's say, fixed alarm or a fixed inner alarm to wake up at 6 a.m., right?
And I've got an alarm to wake up
Okay.
at 6.
And how does your morning routine look like? Do you have one?
Yeah, so the morning consists of getting everybody up and ready for school and out the door. And so generally, I will start work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Um, and then I will go through until maybe 4 or 5 when they get home.
Okay. Do you have any in the process of the morning kind of activities? Do you have any self-care rituals that you practice in the morning before work or not now?
No, no, there's not really that much time or space. I have to get up earlier to do that. There's some days where I have, mastermind groups and things from overseas, so I'll have to get up earlier and do those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, generally I don't. I get up and I do have to have a shower before I do anything. Like the day doesn't actually start if I don't have a shower. Yeah, and a lot of thinking happens there as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a good, like I get a lot of kind of, I think, yeah, having being asked the question, I do think about what I'm going to do for the day. So that's kind of like a pre-planning session. Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Let's talk about the business itself. So, um, content marketing agency is the only thing that you're doing. You're not doing any additional businesses or anything else. This is your pure focus, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And how does your business look like? Like, do you have any people on board? Like, what is going on in the business that you're doing?
Okay. So it's structured. I'm a less is more person. So the simpler I can keep things, the better. So under the current structure, I have myself as full time, and then everybody else I have is contract. And the reason that it works that way is because when I'm looking for writers for a client, they have to be specialists in the area of the client. So I can't just get one writer and, have them write for all the clients.
Hmm.
I have, 6 clients, I'll have 6 different writers.
Okay, so you stick to the idea that a writer should be dedicated to a specific client.
Yeah, and they need to have the background knowledge of that client's industry. So if I'm doing work for a law firm, then the writer will need to be an ex-lawyer.
Oh, wow. An
Yeah,
ex-lawyer. Okay.
yeah, very specific. And it's not uncommon for lawyers to become copywriters. Who
Interesting.
knew? Yeah. Yeah.
What about the idea? So, did I understand correctly? So, if you're putting one copywriter per client, so you're loading that copywriter up full time for working and creating content, or how does that
No,
work?
no, they're all freelance copywriters, so they have their own stable of clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so they just become a supplier, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, for me. And it's because it's ongoing content, they usually have, you know, um, they get better at the topic as they go along as well. So it's almost like a regenerative system.
Super. So you've built out a system for yourself where you're able to sustainably manage clients and client relationships, and you have execution staff that are contract workers, and basically they serve the client. And your current task is to hold the business running, make sure that all the plans are realized, and it's more of a management task kind of at the moment rather than doing the content by yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Super. How did you find out, like in the process? I believe for
So
many,
there's I have a
just a sec, let me a little bit clarify what I meant by this is I believe for many entrepreneurs who will be listening to us, the idea of them being the expert in the business that they're doing can be the main thing. And how did you make the transition, and why, or how did you realize, like as you said, you've talked to someone that like leaded you in that direction, but how did you talk yourself into the idea that I'm stopping writing and I'm just doing the managing part?
I didn't really need to talk myself out of it that much because I could see the potential of being able to grow, like um, much more sustainably if I had a much more diverse range of clients. So part of part of the content marketing, because the content that we produce is incredibly focused on the audience that we're dealing with for that particular client. If I can't really do I can't really have clients in the same industry. So I have to then have clients in separate industries as much as possible. Location can help with that a bit. But generally, you can only talk about real estate in so many ways if you're talking about a residential real estate agency. So keeping those things separate was part of it. And so then being able to assign a writer to that. And the bit that I really enjoyed about the whole process was actually setting it up and finding out from the client, who their audience was, what groups they had, how we could really use the content to connect with them. I didn't really need to talk myself out of it
Mm.
so much as just realize that it could grow much more sustainably if I was able to separate things out a little.
And if I hear correctly, you are currently also really fascinated by what your current responsibilities in the business are. Did I hear that you're responsible also for the strategy and the planning with the client in the first
Yeah,
place? So
yeah,
basically, you come with into a new relationship with a client. You help them understand what they need. You help them to strategize and plan, and then you find the writer that will execute that plan that you've built with the client, right?
yeah, that's exactly it.
Super.
Yeah.
So,
But
mhm.
I was going to say we've now taken it one step further because the framework that I've been using has run so smoothly for the last few years that I'm now turning it into an online course. So
Mm.
yeah, so people can then take themselves through using the exact same framework that I've developed because it's not really, you know, I had to say it, it's not rocket science. Um, so once you understand the bits that you need to know and the bits that you need to fill in for that strategic side and the ongoing planning side, then you can do that yourself, set it up, and then I've got a whole segment now on how you engage a writer and how you manage that process.
Wow.
Um,
How did you come
yeah.
about that idea? So I believe that when we create such kind of supplementary products to the business, the core business that we're doing, we're widening our, let's say, opportunity field. How did you came to the idea of that a course can be something that is worth doing for your business?
I always think I had in the back of my mind that it was going to somehow come to a one to many, uh, structure.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to do both, one fuels the other, which is quite nice. So the agency side clients will always, like every time I go through the process of setting them up, I find better ways to do things, or I find new things to do that add to the outcomes that we get. So that then all feeds back into the online section. Part of it was also that I know that content works, and business owners know that it works, but the cost of having somebody do it in that agency setup is a premium cost. And a lot of startups and small businesses wouldn't be able to afford it. I wouldn't be able to afford my own product, if that makes sense. So, yeah, so if I had to outsource my own writing, I would struggle to do that. So I understand how, because I can do it myself, it's fine. But for a lot of people whose core business isn't marketing, being able to be able to do that without having that huge cost is a really valuable thing.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And talking about passion more, when you were first writing and then you discovered that you could transfer the business model from only you to an agency and then focus on strategy and vision and planning. If I hear you correctly, so you found that you're even more passionate about that than writing itself.
Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, I still am able to, pick up a couple of the articles and do them myself, kind of just to keep my hand in. Um, if there's something that comes through that's really interesting, or I just happen to have knowledge, in that area, then I'll pick that up. So I don't feel like I'm not writing. But yeah, I think, the that kind of getting them set up and doing that discovery session and coming up with the ideas that will work for them, I find that really fun. So
Mm-hmm.
even, ongoing, even being able to get somebody in who can do the managerial side of things would be an easy thing for me to delegate because there's such a system set up now.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Let's look at the idea. As you said, you fit the business into your life. How do you manage to be with your family in the business and take care of yourself? What's your structure?
I wouldn't say it's so much a structure. It's more, the bend like bamboo kind of thing. Like
Okay.
there has to be flexibility built into everything. So if there's something that's immovable, then everybody has to know about that. And we have my husband and I have a shared calendar. And if we have something immovable, the first person who gets it into the shared calendar wins. So so if you forget to put it into the calendar and the other person's already got something in there, sorry, you're going to have to cancel. And then, so that way it's things like, if I have to go and pick up a child from school because they're not feeling well, I can go and do that. There's nothing really. And I think actually the thing that I haven't really mentioned is that the reason the reason I chose ongoing content as a sort of niche in terms of the copywriting space
Mm-hmm.
was because it's able to be planned in a way that there are no hard deadlines.
Mm.
So one of the kind of uh, things that I took into account when I was planning the whole concept was I can't work to hard deadlines if I've, and this was back when I had children in primary school, so things that needed to be more flexible then. Um, So I needed to be able to, um, just have that be able to go, okay, well, if I have to drop everything and go and do something, and working from home was really important as well because, you know, if I have sick children, it doesn't affect me at all because, they're upstairs sleeping and I'm here.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so it really, yeah, and I mean the self-care thing is it's kind of an interesting one for me because I'm kind of I don't feel like I'm a stressed person. I've structured my business so it doesn't have very many stress points, and therefore I just, I'm just kind of able to be, in the flow of whatever's going on. I have to account for school holidays, so I look at my year in terms of. So we have 4 school terms over here, and they run for anywhere between 8 to 13 weeks. So that's my sprint is a
Mm.
13-week sprint,
Okay.
and then I have, then I kind of have everything planned. So over the school holidays, I have a light touch on what's going on, but there's nothing dramatic happening. I don't bring new clients on in the holidays, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's
Uh,
interesting, I guess. So, one of the core ideas in balancing your business and family is that the sprint idea and having the family holiday during the periods where your kids are on holiday.
yeah, yeah. Like sometimes I'll go, okay, well, I'm just going to, for the first week of the holidays, I'm going to work in the morning till midday, and then, I'm available to the girls. Or, they might want to go and do something. So we just kind of shuffle those few weeks around, and then school starts, and off I go again on that, 8 to 12 week sprint. And then the holidays come along again. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so it's summer over here now. So I've got 2 months of school holidays.
Super. How do you find, can you give any insights how others might be able to do the same? Maybe you have some kind of a system in place or a structure in place that helps you to be able to do that on an ongoing basis during the year?
Look, I guess it's going to really depend business to business how that will work for people. As I said, because I can, we plan things out in quarters. So, the client will sign off the next quarter's worth of topics. They go to the writer, then the writer's got 2 to 3 weeks to pull those together and send them back. Then they go to the proofing and editing girl, and then they come back for review, and then they send them to the client for sign off, and then they get uploaded, which is done by somebody else as well. So, within that, so really it's just a case of going, okay, so over the school holidays, if I send out the new topics to the writer, a couple of weeks before the school holidays with the expectation they'll be back at the end of the school holidays, then the system keeps going. So,
Ah, okay.
yeah, so it's really, and in the middle of that, I may have to jump in and check a few things or whatever, or, make sure that the clients are signing off in time. Yeah, it really depends, but
So for your
I don't
business,
plan.
you find that using the period of holidays is a good time to plan and create content with the writers, and then during the rest of the time you are able to manage all the ongoing things.
Yeah, yeah. So generally the kind of really, the writers will have their topics before the holidays start, so they've got that time to produce the pieces. And I mean, to be fair, a lot of them are also parents, so we negotiate a lot on, when things will be due and how they'll get done.
Hmm.
But because the clients aren't, we're not running into publishing dates or anything like that, so it's just a case of, okay, the next lot are done, you've signed them off, we upload them, and then we go, okay, well, we'll use these ones in a newsletter, or you need to put these ones on LinkedIn, or whatever it happens to
Hmm.
be part of their strategy. We kind of
Gotcha.
manage that as well. So, yeah, but in terms of doing, like recording things for the course or bringing on new clients, I never schedule that.
Hmm.
That's all scheduled in the sprint time.
Got you. What about when you have to plan out? You mentioned that you have a weekly plan and a daily plan. How do you manage your decision-making process and setting priorities for that time?
Okay, are you familiar with the bullet journal
I heard of
method?
it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
so I looked at the bullet journal method, and I stripped it right back to the really basic things that I was going to use. So, at the beginning of a school term, I'll have a page that has a box for every week in the school term. So I know in terms of, which school week it is. Then I put in anything that's immovable in terms of the school term. So if there's something that the girls have on, like parent-teacher interviews or something like that, that goes in the box of that week. So then I get an overview of that sprint, and I can start counting down to when the school holidays next arrive, so that I can pre-plan what needs to happen to cover that period. Then every week will have a page where I just jot down all the big things that need to get done during that week. And then I create a page for each day of the week. And on the left-hand side, I'll have the to-do list. And on the right-hand side, I'll have two boxes. One is for immovable things like meetings, or if I have to do the school run or something like that, they get put there. And then in the lower right-hand box, I put anything that isn't client task related. So, it might be like,
that's
pay
very
the
interesting.
council rate. Yeah, so and then the next day, and so then at the end of that day, I carry over anything else that needs to be done. I put in the immovables, I put in anything else that needs to be, it might be, call the school about something or something, life tasks really.
I believe that for many listeners, the bullet journal will be a new thing. When I first saw it, I would say it's a neat way of planning. And one of the things I would like to ask you, would you be able to share with the listeners a template of how your bullet journal looks
Oh yeah,
like
sure.
on a weekly and a day-to-day basis? That would be something really interesting to look at.
Yeah, sure. I don't know how I do it right now though.
No, not right now, but we can. I think that we can set it up so that people will be able to find in the description below. Maybe I'll provide a link
Oh, okay, sure.
so they
Yeah.
can take a look. And maybe what we can do is I believe this can be a valuable content for you as well. So if you create an overview of how you do your bullet journal. I can
Mhm.
share the post link to the description so others can actually understand how to practically use the bullet journal for themselves as well.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, no, as I said, it's a very stripped back version, and I use pencil and paper, old school. So,
Great. So looking at also the planning, as you said, you live by quarters, by school holidays. How far ahead in life do you plan? Do you have like an ideal life scenario of where you want to get to, or you're just going year by year and seeing what comes?
yeah, I have a thing called the rule of general direction.
Ooh.
So, that there are people who plot their journey. We're going to drive to this place and we're going to stop here and we're going to stay the night and we're going to drive to that place and we're going to. I tend to go, all right, so the place that I want to get to is, 5,000 kilometers away. And we're just going to head in that general direction and we're just going to see what comes along, but we're going to keep going in that general direction. So in terms of business, I have an idea of where I want to get to, but I'm not particularly beholden to how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I get 3 years down the track and I go, oh man, I've just had this great idea and it's going to be this, this, and this, and it's a spin-off of what I'm doing now, it doesn't matter. Because, you don't really know what's actually in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I just tend to go on this rule of general direction that I kind of want to end up over there. And if it goes like that, there's probably very good reason for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have, when you have that general direction fixated, do you write out your why you're going in that direction?
No, I don't really write out a why. I just kind of go, okay, well, that's the end goal. And I kind of embed the end goal as much as I can. And then I sort of drop it and
Mm.
tick along. And often I'll get to a point and I'll suddenly go, oh, hold on, that milestone was back there. um, and then, set a new one.
I hear you. Cool.
Yeah.
In terms of
monthly, weekly, and daily activities to grow the business that you're doing? As you said, you have a very specific business and uniquely, I would say, structured to your needs. Are there things that help you to grow your business that you execute, right? Maybe once a month, once a week, and once a day?
Um, that's an interesting question. I don't really think that I do necessarily. There's a lot of, I think part of the issue with the way things are today is there are so many things that you can do and implement and try. And so part of it is not getting too stuck on one particular method of doing things, but also not getting distracted by every single shiny thing that comes along.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere in there, there's kind of a happy medium of being able to try and experiment and expand, but not getting so distracted that you're not really going anywhere. Yeah, so I find it frustrating when I talk to people about marketing and they're like, oh, well, it's Facebook or nothing. And I'm like, well, no, you've really got to look at who you're talking to and where they're hanging out, that kind of thing. So,
What
um,
about, are there any specific activities that you know that really support the growth of your business, like reaching out or maybe content writing or
networking,
okay.
yeah, networking works well for me.
And
Um,
how often and how do you practice it?
well, that's an interesting one because for the last 12 months, obviously nobody's really networked very well. I don't know if you're aware of the BNI network.
No, haven't heard
I
of it.
think it's Business Network International,
Okay.
and they're a referral network group, um,
Mm.
and you meet weekly. And the idea is that you refer business amongst the group. So there's only ever one type of your business in the group. And there's lots and lots of groups. Like I don't know, there's like 50 groups in Sydney that I know
Mm-hmm.
of. Now, previously, you would have to go into the venue where the meeting was held and attend the meeting live in person every week. Um, but of course, COVID came along, and so they had to take everything online. So now they have their weekly meetings online, which is a game changer for people like me. And I think particularly women, because I've spoken to a lot of women, they're like, they're spending up to $150 on childcare and parking and, getting up early and doing all that. Now we just get out of bed, put on a shirt and grab a coffee and here we are at the meeting. And so that's been a massive game changer for me. So I'm joining that group
Mm.
for next year. So I'm really looking forward to that. And the nice thing about it going online is now I can go and join in and be a guest at a BNI group in New York.
Super.
So yeah, or anywhere.
So, so
So
you try to practice networking on a weekly basis, and one of the strategies that you'll be using in the upcoming years during the BNI network
yeah.
that is helping you to realize that. Wonderful. Do you have any additional strategies that help you to grow the business? Like being a content writer and having an agency, how often do you engage into copywriting yourself and content writing for
Yeah,
your business?
it's a good question. It's like the builder whose house is never finished. So I do my own copy. I do focus on LinkedIn.
Mm.
So I think the last quarter of last year I did a lot of work on LinkedIn, and I'll continue doing that. So it'll be probably 3 times a week at a minimum um, on LinkedIn. So just posts, shares, conversations, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's Facebook is really not my platform.
Got you.
So
So
yeah,
for the B2B, you focus on a B2B social network that is the driving
exactly.
force.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Horses for courses. My 14-year-old daughter is starting her own business at the moment,
Mm,
and I know. And her platform is Instagram. So
wonderful.
she's basically building her audience and starting to get people ordering her, the little hair scrunchies, and she's designing a few things. So yeah, she's got her whole thing, and she's found her own set of mentors and people who are teaching teens how to be entrepreneurs. So it's
Cool.
really interesting. But to my point, she's doing lots of visual content and putting it up because that's where her audience is, and
Hmm.
that's how she's going to engage them and connect with them. Whereas, I'm over on LinkedIn doing serious stuff.
Fascinating. So, talking on the topic of developing your business, yeah, like majority of things that your business is working on is outsourcing, so right, so contractor work. And can you give some tips for people on how to best work with outsourcing the work itself?
Yeah, okay. So I'd say first and foremost, you need to have a very, very clear system. And it's a copywriters is a really good example because it can go so terribly wrong so very quickly. And so one of the biggest lessons I learned when I very first started, I went to a meeting with someone, and they were in I think financial management or financial planning, and they, no joke, gave me a pile of articles that they'd printed out. It was this thick from other people's websites. And they said, here, this is the kind of thing that we like. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I came back and I flipped through and I picked out 3 examples as sort of topic inspiration, applied it to what I knew of their business, and went back to them. And it was awful. It was awful. She's like, I don't know why you used shoes as a metaphor. Now, there were 4 articles in the stack that had referenced shoes. So I was kind of like, well, her audience is women and people get, the cost per wear joke, like all this sort of stuff. No, she didn't like it at all. And that was the first time I realized that I needed to have a really robust system in place for engaging and briefing writers, but also making sure that the client understood what they were asking for. And that, up until that point, that had been one of the biggest flaws in the whole content marketing outsourcing thing. Because a lot of people I spoke to, they'd say, oh yeah, we got a writer and we gave them a couple of topics and we really just couldn't even publish them. It was so not us, So those were all the kinds of problems that I had to solve. So having very clear guidelines for what you're expecting your contractor to do, to the point where you can sit there with a list and say, do you think you met this, these criteria,
Mm-hmm.
and allow them to self-assess what they've done
Mm-hmm.
against the criteria, so that, you can say to them, look, this is the article we want you to write. Here's the audience definition. This is the tone of voice. This is, we use British English. We don't use swear words. We don't use questions. We don't use binary questions. We don't, all this kind of stuff. And so you can go through and you can go, okay, have you met all the criteria? And then they can, assess their own work and then hand it in.
Okay. And
Yeah.
while developing those criterias of, let's say, the guidelines of how to write content and how to build up everything that you said, right? The tone of voice and the accent and the nuances of the language, does it is it part of already you having done so much work that you are able just to come in, quickly ask several questions of the client, and everything is good to go? Or what is the process of actually finding out? And I believe for many businesses out there, that can be an interesting question of how to productively put those things together if you don't know what are they about.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically what the online course is about. So there's 3 really key modules. So the first one is your audience, your offer, and your brand. So what those 3 things are is who you're talking to, what you're talking about, and how you're saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically the foundation of any good content marketing strategy, because if you don't really intimately know those things, then you're going to kind of come out with bland, disengaging content. And just the audience of those 3 things, if you could only do one, it would be the audience. And it takes it a lot further than simply having an avatar. So, Alan's in his 20s and he's got his first business and he drives a red car, and, none of that matters when you're writing content.
What
It's like,
matters?
okay, so it's things like, is Alan a move away from pain person or a move towards reward person?
Super. Mm-hmm.
There'll be things like, are they solution aware or problem aware? So a problem aware person will go, okay, I've got a problem, but I don't know how to solve it. So content marketing, we can solve it with SEO, we can solve it with content, we can solve it with paid advertising. Or you have the solution aware person who says, right, I need to get some really good quality content written. Is it company A or company B?
Okay.
Yeah. So understanding all those little things, and then there's, whereabouts are they in your buyer journey? So are they out there in the wilderness, and you have to kind of bring them in? So that's lead generation and credibility content, or are they already on your database and you have to shift them across into becoming a paying client? If they're a paying client, are they succeeding in using or experiencing the thing that you have, and how do you communicate that? Mm-hmm. So there's kind of touch points all the way along. So there's a whole range of things that you kind of go through, and I've got a whole process now for that.
Very interesting. I believe
that then gets written up into a kind of description of that audience, which the writer can then use as a reference. So when you say to the writer, okay, you're going to be writing for audience D, for argument's sake, they can then go to the communication guide and go, okay, which one's audience D? Oh, okay, so those are these people. They're already sitting on the database. So the call to action at the bottom has to be buy the thing. So it's quite involved, but once it's set up, it becomes much, much easier for everything to be managed and checked and made sure that it's correct. And the right language is used, the right imagery is used, all that kind of thing.
That seems like a very powerful course that many businesses would find super valuable, because like in many cases, like we do hear the idea of an avatar, and who's an avatar. We usually talk about the things that like they have or they do. But actually looking from a perspective, as you mentioned, like what is their orientation, right? What do they focus on? Are they like a problem or a solution person? And that's powerful insights that drive much more value than just knowing what car they drive or what wallpaper they have at home.
Yeah. And it becomes then an exercise in influence rather than an exercise in attraction, because you're then able to use language really, really cleverly to attract the clients that you really want to work with. So, for example, if you've got a whole bunch of clients who move away from pain people, they tend to be bargain hunters, they tend to be a bit slack about paying their invoices on time, they tend to ask for discounts, that kind of thing, and they tend to be disloyal because they're going on, they'll go, oh, this isn't really working for me, not because it's not working, but just because they didn't really have a defined place to go. Their motivation was to get away from where they are. So, they go, oh, that looks like something good, so I'll go over there. And it's like, well, this isn't quite what I want either, so I'll go over there. Whereas the move towards reward people tend to be much more inclined to invest in the journey that they're on. They have a definitive goal in mind, and they will be much more loyal to people who help them get to where they're going.
Okay. About the idea of moving towards reward people, how large is this audience usually in your practice?
Well, I try to work with 100% of people who have that mindset. So I prefer, I don't like, in terms of competing, I don't really feel like I compete with the SEO people, for example, because people will often go, well, we don't know, we're going to use you or we're going to use SEO. And I say to them, probably don't use me, use SEO. Whereas if somebody comes to me and goes, oh, look, we really want to send out a newsletter, but we're not sure what to put in it, and we just, we really want to, we've got this big database, we never communicate with them, then I'm your girl.
Super.
So and that tends to be a much better relationship. So for example, 2 of my clients have been with me now for 5.5 years. That's a lot of
Wow.
content.
Yeah. In terms of understanding what you like in the business and understanding yourself, what would you say? Did you ever come across a system or a tool that helped you to better understand yourself, like gave you a massive boost of self-awareness, or it's is just your journey and that helped you to better understand yourself?
Um, I'm a big fan of kinesiology. I don't know if you're familiar with kinesiology.
No.
Okay. So, kinesiology is where you use muscle testing to find out what the answers to questions, because your body holds all the answers to all the questions.
Okay.
And it can be used. It can be used for mindset, and it can be used for clearing blockages, like mental blocks, and it can be used for helping heal physical things as well. So often you'll find you've got like a reoccurring bad back, and you go to the doctor, and you go to the doctor, and you go to the doctor, and nothing happens, and nothing happens, and then you go to somebody who does applied kinesiology, perhaps combined with chiropractic or something like that. Boom, it's gone, because the belief is that the emotions are held in the body, depending on what the emotion is and where it came from, and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of recurring injuries, the physical side of things have been healed as well as they
Yeah.
can be, but there's an energetic
Oh,
um,
I 100% believe in that because in many cases, as they say, you're fully on point that the idea that we never learn to express our and live through our emotions, and it's 100% that the emotions are building up in the body, and there's a like separate field um, to health where we what was that name? Is basically where we look at the influence of our mindset, which and emotions that create physical problems. Oh, what was the name? Oh, I don't remember. I'll find out. I'll write in the description. But the kind of the major idea is that a lot of illnesses in our body are caused by emotions and are caused by mindset. So kinesiology really sounds like something that works specifically with that direction of health.
yeah, yeah, it does. And so then, often, and then you can ask the body what it needs in order to heal further. So it could be vitamins, it could be medicine, it could be exercise, it could be meditation, it could be but you can test and find out all those things just, by asking your own body.
Mm,
Um,
very
so
interesting.
yeah, in terms of self-awareness, that's been the biggest thing. And I've been doing that probably for 20 years now.
Wow,
Yeah,
very interesting.
cleared a lot of stuff.
And that I believe when we touched upon like self-help practices, I believe that that was one of the major ones that for you is a self-care practice.
Yeah, no, I haven't really even thought about it in those terms, but yes, it is. It absolutely is. And it is probably the key one.
Super.
Mm.
Let's look at a question. You've mentioned that you participate in the masterminds, and I would love to ask you about the idea of how does your surrounding influence your growth and success, and how did it came to be?
Um, Look, I'm kind of an outlier on that one in terms of I think in the questions you were saying that you're the sum of the five people that you surround yourself with. I tend to go for diversity rather than going, oh, I'm just going to find the five richest people that I
Mm,
know and hang out with them. I tend to look for diversity in people, places, experiences, all those kinds of things. It's more about um, making sure that I'm constantly absorbing and questioning new things,
mm,
and that's the thing that keeps me inspired. And I think going back to why did I start doing what I'm doing, part of what I'm doing is because I don't work in industry vertical. I work in a horizontal band, so I can take anyone from any industry. And that because I do that setup period with them, and so I kind of really get to crawl around in the mindset of their businesses. I find that I know a whole bunch of stuff about things that people would go, oh, food in aged care, that's a bit boring, and I'm like, yeah, no, actually fascinating. So yeah, so I know a whole bunch of stuff about things that I would never have normally needed to delve into.
Hmm.
So I think it's the diversity of those things, and I do have some business masterminds, but not a lot. Um, I think one of the key things, and probably the biggest turning point in my business, was the day that I dropped all my masterminds.
Wow.
Yeah,
What
yeah, I was
what did
kind
that
of,
mean for you?
well, I think it was just, I was a bit frustrated because I wasn't, like you can get into those masterminds and everybody's growing and there's, mashing their goals and all this kind of stuff. And I was feeling a little bit stuck and I wasn't really moving
Mm.
anywhere. Um, and it was, it was reflected across, my energy levels, my income levels, everything. And I just went, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And so I cancelled all my memberships, got out of the courses that I was doing, and within 2 weeks, I had 4 new clients on the
Wow.
agency for a
What
new thing. And I
changed?
just, what?
What changed?
I gave the space for it to come
Okay.
in. I was so busy trying to do the thing that I wanted to do that when I stopped trying to do the thing that I wanted to do, it happened. And
Wow.
I think that anytime I get stuck now, I don't look at what I need to do. I look at what I need to stop doing
Mm.
to give the
So,
space.
so you've that's I believe for every single listener out there, this can carry a ton of value from the idea that we get ourselves so busy, we get ourselves so worked up in the direction of what we actually want to do, that we don't enable ourselves enough space for actually doing the thing, and we put all of the time into the idea of we have to work, 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 and create, 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 but that manifestation activities not always bring us to results. And you're a great example of that, where what you actually need to do is stop doing all the manifesting activities and enable it to come to you in life.
Yeah, yeah. We have a saying in our house. We go, oh, my husband's. He'll say this. He go, I need some new shirts, and I'll go, but you don't have any spare coat hangers. And so I make him get rid of some shirts,
Oh, that's
and then it's
wonderful.
like, and then the shirts can come.
That's
And so
that's that's a
yeah,
saying around where you cannot fill a cup with new water when the cup is full. So you need to
yeah, that's
empty the cup a
exactly
little bit.
right.
Very
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah, yeah. If you want something new to come in, like you know how you have those things that work, but they're kind of half broken, and you've taped them together and stuff, and you go, I really should get a new one, but you don't, you don't. You have to throw it out first, then you
Hmm.
can get the new one.
Super. Because from my
Yeah.
perspective, like masterminds shouldn't be a thing where they are like I've seen so many where people are just like coming in, and especially the variation of masterminds where you have the hot seats. I believe that's I wouldn't say it's a waste of time, because you will always learn something from the cases of the people who are in the hot seat and from the experience of the surrounding. But the major thing why we want that surrounding is for that surrounding to support us on a constant basis. But when we're constantly participating in the masterminds, we tend to have so small amount of time dedicated to actually our own questions and what is truly needed for us, and we disperse our energy. Instead of laser focusing on what we need to do, we spread it among many people, and through that we have this huge destabilization of focus in our life, where not only we are focusing and trying so hard to build what we need to do, but also we are working on so many people at the same time, and there, so much energy outflow is going into the direction that is not serving us.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one actually because I'm kind of in a sub mastermind that happened organically. So I don't know if you're aware of a guy called Jeff Walker who does product launch formula.
Ah,
It's
yes,
the
yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
product launch. Okay. So I joined product launch formula, but this year because of COVID, they did the live conference. They did it on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So because we're in Australia, we had to get up at midnight and pull an all-nighter 3 nights in a row
Mm-hmm.
to attend the conference. And so all the people in New Zealand, and not all of us, but a small group of the New Zealand and Australian people we kind of got together on our own little messenger group just to make, just to make sure we were up and that we didn't fall asleep during the lunch break, which was at like 3 in the morning. And then after that, we decided that we'd meet every week and help each other go through this, go through the coursework and do all the work and stuff. And so there's probably about, I think there might be 12 of us all up.
Okay.
And I'd say maybe 6 or 7 of us will turn up, not the same 6 and 7, but, like 6 or 7 every week would turn up we've got a 1 hour window on Fridays. And because we're all focused on doing the same thing and we're all a little bit behind or a little bit in front of each other, it is an incredibly valuable hour.
Wonderful.
And and occasionally we find somebody else out in the larger group who's from Australia, and we kind of go, oh, psst, come over here and join our group. And so it's really become a really valuable. It doesn't cost us anything except that 1 hour, and we're all very generous in how we share and help each other. So it doesn't feel like we're fragmenting our energy at all.
Yes.
So
I finally got out of you what I really wanted to hear. That because at the beginning you said like, I canceled everything and it started to work. But actually, this is what I wanted everyone to hear.
Well, that was years ago, though.
But in any case, what I wanted the case here to prove is that when a mastermind is focused on your core needs and what you actually need to do on a constant basis, on a weekly basis, it actually super supports you. It actually helps you to move, because the people who are in the mastermind, they're not only on the same level where you are, they are doing in the same direction. They're working in the same direction as you are. You have a common goal, and that provides the unity within the group for the group energy, for the mastermind energy to super influence what you're doing. And you wouldn't be able to achieve the same thing if you were doing it alone. And that's what I wanted to hear. And you presented that fact very well. And I believe for every single person out there, when you're thinking about masterminds in general, you have to make sure that the group goals are aligned with your goals. And what the group members are doing is in line what you're also doing in your life. And you're constantly getting the support you need on at least a weekly basis. That level, let's say, of intimacy, of trust, of support, the group energy of working in the same direction can do magnificent results for the direction that you're trying to follow through on.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I think that is the key to the success of that group, is that we're all speaking the same language. We've all got the same reference material available to us, and we're all trying to do the same thing, even though we're doing it in such diverse industries. We have an artist, we have a woman who trains horses, there's all sorts in there, but we're all kind of working through the same thing with the same problems and helping each other solve them, and it's incredibly valuable.
Wonderful. On this energetic idea, I would love you to share some advice to the listeners on what can they do in their business to make the most out of 2021.
I think starting the first thing I do, and I'm about to do this over the next 2 days, is I massively declutter. So I unsubscribe from everything I've subscribed to for the last year. I go through all my files. I get everything off my desktop. I archive anything that's not really relevant anymore, or that's not going to be relevant for the year. So that's all my online drives get cleared out. My office gets cleared out. I'll often rearrange it, or do something new, paint a wall, something, get new plants. I think it's not about what I do, it's the things that I get rid of that clear it out and make that space for the things that I want to come in the next 12 months.
Oh, that's one of the best advice out of the whole series that we had. Stop thinking about what you get new done in the year. Actually declutter first of everything that you don't need from the year that you've already been through, to let all the opportunities come into your life in the upcoming year. Super.
Yeah, I mean, sack a client or two.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you do that?
Well, if it's not really working out, you can just kind of say, I think we're done. You know,
Okay. So,
sometimes it's a natural separation and you can do it very gracefully. And sometimes you do have to say, you're not really fitting with where I'm going this year.
wonderful. That's also a
Yeah.
powerful idea for everyone out there. That's you choose your clients, and your
Yeah.
well-being in your business depends on you being able to stay focused and truthful to yourself. And if the client relationship isn't playing out, don't suffocate yourself. Get rid of that relationship and enable a new
Mm.
one, a better one, to come in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Great. So, Camille, I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing your story, your practices, big ideas on how to stay productive. I love the concept of decluttering. I believe that everyone is also interesting to know more about kinesiology. We will share the links in the description below. Also about, I remember about the bullet journal and how do you practice it. That's a big thing to share as well. I'll provide a link in the description below. And for everyone who wants to know more about B2B content writing and understanding how to do content writing yourself and hiring clients, Camille has wonderful course coming up, as well as I believe you can find a lot of value and insights by signing up and subscribing to what she has to offer. So you'll find all the descriptions about how to find more about Camille in the description. Thank you, Camille. I wish you a happy upcoming holiday season. Wonderful, have a wonderful new year. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You're listening to Life Origami Podcast with Alen Leit. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you found a lot of value in this episode. If you have any comments, shoot me a DM. I would love to listen to your feedback on how can we improve this episode and what can we include in the future episodes as well. Also, if you're an entrepreneur that is building a business that you love from the comfort of your home and you're tired of working in isolation because you know that you're fired up by this group energy that you had in a business where you worked in before, like you know that all of the group energies where you know that people expect you to be up and there for your team on a daily basis working on the stuff that needs to get done, and you knew that this is something that is a critical element for you to be productive on a daily basis. But now that you're working alone in the comfort of your home and you are your own boss and there's no team behind you, all the productivity, all the things that made you the best that you can be on a daily basis is missing as a critical part of your day-to-day activity and day-to-day work because you're now working for yourself. So if this is something that is bothering you, if this is something that is missing in your day-to-day activity, I invite you to check out my new project called the Online Co-working Space for Entrepreneurs. This is a space that I've prepared and specifically made, taking into account all of those most practical, the best systems, tools, and activities that use the functionality of the group environment to get you up and running every single day and using every single day to your most productive abilities. So if this is something that is missing and you want to introduce that into your day-to-day life, interacting with a group of like-minded entrepreneurs, I invite you to check out the project in the description below. And if you have any questions, you can always shoot me a DM. We can get on a call and I will tell you everything that you would like to discover additionally and how can this project benefit and serve your business. Talk to you soon.